In a galaxy filled with deadly planets known as death worlds, humans are a mystery. These planets kill almost all life quickly, but humans refuse to die. Instead, they adapt and turn the dangers into strength. On Charybdis 9, a planet with acid rain, poisonous air, and strange electromagnetic predators, a small human colony fights to survive. They do not just survive, they thrive. They turn poison into resources, tame wild energy beings, and build a home where others would perish. This story is about the clash between nature's deadliest forces and the stubborn spirit of humanity. It shows how humans challenge the universe's rules and face death with fierce hope and courage. The stakes are survival, identity, and the meaning of life in a place designed for extinction. Auditor Zoran's shuttle slipped out of the quantum fold. It dropped exactly 47,000 kilometers from Charybdis 9. The planet was a Class 15 death world, the deadliest kind. The galaxy's rules said no life could last there. Zoran was sent to check on the failed colony ship Perseverance. The scanner on his shuttle began a harsh alarm, a terrible symphony of death. Radiation levels could burn unprotected skin in minutes. The air was filled with acids that could eat metal fast. The ground trembled, showing the planet's unstable tectonics. This was normal for Charybdis 9. Its corrosive clouds and violent storms killed everything that landed. Zoran spoke calmly to his recording slate. Planet designation confirmed. Class 15, sub-lethal. Colony ship Perseverance crash site. Proceeding with asset recovery. Genetic material recovery unlikely. Next of kin notification, batch processing. The shuttle AI interrupted with an unusual alert. Anomaly detected at target coordinates. Multiple active power signatures. Recalibrating sensors. Confirmed, active military-grade thorium reactors and atmospheric containment. Zoran's breath caught. This was impossible. The colony should be dead, and the wreckage silent. Instead, there was power. Life. He watched the instruments with disbelief. Then his comm system crackled. A voice came over, flat and tired from routine. Unknown vessel, this is Firebase Persistence. State your business. Zoran blinked. No colony had ever spoken back. This is Galactic Survey Auditor Zoran. Badge number, we've been expecting you, the voice replied. You're cleared for landing. Pad 2. I'll put some coffee on. Fair warning, it tastes like Santos ran his boots through the processor. The connection went dead. Zoran sat frozen. The landing pad below him gleamed like new, untouched by the acid storms. The lights on the pad blinked bright, guiding his shuttle down. There was even a welcome mat. All signs of a functioning base on a world meant to kill everything. Zoran sealed his environment suit carefully. He triple-checked every lock and valve. The air outside was deadly. But the man waiting at the airlock had no protective gear. Mid-40s, soldier's build, eyes sharp with experience. Staff Sergeant Marcus Kellerman, the man said, offering a gloved hand. Zoran shook it without hesitation. Welcome to the armpit of the galaxy. You're breathing, Zoran said, shocked. Usually do, Kellerman shrugged. Worst air inside the fence. Smells like Santa on a bad day, but it won't kill you much. They stepped inside. The base was nothing like the tomb Zoran expected. The halls were clean, brightly lit, with pipes painted in bright colors, hot death, on red, cold death, on blue, and, probably fine, on yellow. This is our command center, Kellerman said, leading him to a room full of humming machines and screens. One showed weather patterns. Another showed wildlife migration. Wildlife? Zoran frowned. EM predators, Kellerman smiled. Electromagnetic pulse predators. Apex hunters made of pure energy. Corporal Reeves, the communications specialist, grinned from his console. You're the tax man, right? I'm an auditor, Zoran corrected. Same thing. You count stuff and tell us we're doing it wrong. Reeves laughed and showed Zoran the predators on his scope. Big migration today. They should have fried every circuit around here, but we learned their patterns. They're real sweet once you get to know them. Zoran turned to Kellerman. Your logs. I want to see everything. Reeves sent the data to Zoran's slate, which instantly began to panic. Error. 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 Atmospheric corrosive agent listed as industrial input. Predator feeding schedule unknown. Recreational hours exceeding limits. Power efficiency impossible. The slate begged for a full diagnostic. Reeves looked worried. Our data's weird. Santos says it's because of a quaternary data structure he invented. Reality gets flexible here. Zoran forced himself to breathe. Walk me through your procedures. Kellerman nodded. Started rough. 3 months ago, a supply pod hit the atmosphere like a meteor. Heat shield glowing red. We watched from our shelter, natural caves we sealed as best we could. The rain fell harder, acid dripping everywhere. They reached the pod. The heat shield and metal shell were already dissolving. Military-grade steel bubbling like cheese. Emergency recovery, Kellerman ordered. Grab what you can. They worked fast, pulling out crates and supplies before the acid destroyed the rest. A support beam dissolved, dropping half the cargo into acid lakes. They retreated with only a third of what they came for. Santos, the engineer, pointed at the puddles. Titanium derivatives last longest. That ceramic liner I made? Not a scratch. Thinking what I'm thinking? Kellerman asked. Primary industrial solvent, Santos said, manic grin spreading. We weaponized the atmosphere. Zoran stared at the refinery that rose like a monument to madness. Pipes funneled acid into ceramic tanks. The air smelled of hot metal and ozone. The soil is mineral-rich, Santos explained. The acid breaks the bonds. We use catalysts to get iron, aluminum, titanium, tungsten, even rhodium. Zoran protested. The atmosphere is eating your planet. Santos shrugged. Slowly. We've got at least 1 million years before it's a problem. By then, someone else's problem. Zoran's slate gave up. It categorized this as other C-attached notes. Kellerman smiled. You haven't seen the best yet. They reached a 4-meter-tall fence humming with energy. Outside was a hellscape of broken rock, acid lakes, and strange shapes moving in the shadows. Predators. How is your fence still working? Zoran asked. Reeves blew a whistle. No sound Zoran could hear, but his suit screamed infrasonic frequencies. The creatures approached, sniffing the fence. Kellerman tossed scrap metal over. The predators collapsed the metal and vanished with a sound like reality tearing. Good boy, Kellerman said fondly. They're pets, Zoran said, shocked. Cost us scrap a week. They patrol the fence. Territorial as hell. They're smart, Reeves added. They think differently. Once we spoke their language, mathematics and frequency modulation, they learned jokes. Nearly fried the backup generator laughing. Zoran's slate stopped trying to classify anything. Anything you haven't turned into an asset? Zoran asked. The worms, Kellerman said. 40 meters long. Navigate by vibration. Hate be flat. Worst they do is shake the ground. How many lost? Zoran asked quietly. 4, Kellerman answered. Lieutenant Marson on day 1. Henderson tried to ride a worm, paralytic skin. Kowalski and Patel in a tunnel collapse. Death world. Zoran swallowed. How do you accept this? Accept what? Kellerman laughed. That we're on a planet that wants us dead. That's just Tuesday. Santos poured a drink that smelled like paint thinner mixed with jet fuel. I make my own alcohol. Zoran stared at the glass. I'm wearing a suit. Give it a few months, Santos said. Suit gets annoying. Kellerman smiled. Humans don't run. We adapt. This planet isn't trying to kill us. It's just being itself. Once you accept that, it's all engineering. Zoran laughed despite himself. The planet spun outside, acid rain sparkling in the dim light. Lethal, beautiful, and home. 2 months passed since Auditor Zoran arrived on Charybdis 9. The colony, known as fire-based persistence, had become more than a fragile outpost. It was a living, breathing defiance against death itself. Zoran had started to understand the strange rhythm of this world. Here, danger was not something to flee, but something to master. Each morning, the sky was a swirling gray. Acid rain drummed on the transparent aluminum roofs like a relentless drumbeat. The air was thick with chemicals that would kill anyone unprepared. But inside the pressure fence, life thrived. The humans had built greenhouses where strange, colorful plants grew, fed by processed air and mineral-rich soil. Zoran followed Kellerman through the base, watching as the team worked with calm determination. Santos, the engineer, checked gauges and adjusted valves on the atmospheric processing tanks. Reeves monitored the electromagnetic predator patrols, communicating with the living energy creatures through complex math signals. The predators are smarter than we thought, Reeves said, his grin widening. They picked up on sarcasm last week. Nearly fried the backup power trying to laugh. Zoran smiled despite himself. The idea of wild electromagnetic beasts sharing jokes was absurd, yet here it was. Suddenly, alarms sounded throughout the base. Red lights bathed the corridors. Kellerman grabbed his helmet. Code yellow, he announced. Seismic event imminent. Everyone to stations. Zoran's suit blared warnings. The floor trembled beneath their feet. Through the windows, deep fissures cracked open the ground. Glowing gases poured from the earth, mixing with the acid rain to create a toxic soup. The humans moved with practiced urgency. Santos coordinated teams activating massive chemical processors built directly over fault lines. They turned deadly volcanic gases into oxygen and sulfur compounds, transforming poison into breath and battery materials. Zoran watched, amazed. You turn death into life. Every day, Kellerman said, eyes scanning the quake-damaged equipment. This world breaks apart, and we rebuild stronger. The tremors slowed. The venting of gases eased. Outside, the acid rain returned to its lethal but steady fall. The colony's repairs began immediately. Humans in specially designed suits surveyed the damage, hunting for new opportunities hidden in destruction. Fissure 7 opened up, one engineer reported. Direct access to rare earth deposits. Get mining teams ready, Kellerman ordered. Planet does the digging. We collect the goods. Zoran shook his head in wonder. Where others saw doom, these humans saw hope. Their stubbornness was not foolishness but a force of nature. Later, in the recreation room known as the Acid Rain Lounge, Zoran experienced something unexpected. The pool table gleamed black, carved from local obsidian. Handmade cards lay on tables fashioned from scavenged materials. The bar was stocked with strange bottles of alcohol distilled from toxic local plants. Santos poured a shot of his homemade drink. Clear, smells like paint thinner and jet fuel mixed. Is it safe? Zoran asked. Mostly, Santos laughed. We filter out most neurotoxins. Tingling extremities normal. Zoran stared at the glass. He was still an outsider here, protected by his suit and caution. But the humans around him drank freely, laughing, talking, planning. Kellerman sat beside him. You asked how we accept this world. We don't have a choice. Logic says we should be dead. But humans are built for challenges. We don't just survive, we adapt, we use what kills us as fuel to live. Zoran nodded slowly. He had spent his career cataloging failure. Here, he was cataloging the impossible. Suddenly, the predator alert sounded again. Outside, the energy creatures gathered at the fence, awaiting their weekly feeding. The humans moved out, tossing scraps of metal over the barrier. The predators devoured them, their forms flickering and pulsing like living lightning. One predator left a gift, a battered piece of metal with strange writing. Reeves inspected it. Chinese ship debris. 3rd this month. Will mark for salvage. The predators were partners in this strange ecosystem. The colony's protection, its wild guards against the harsh wilderness beyond. Back inside, Zoran's comm system crackled. Auditor Zoran, this is Regional Supervisor CTA. Your report is overdue. Zoran sighed. The colony is alive and thriving. They have tamed predators, refined metal from acid rain, and turned volcanic gas into breathable air. They are not only surviving, they are building. There was silence on the line. You understand that Class 15 death worlds have a 100% fatality rate within one solar cycle? Yes, Zoran said. Then the index is wrong. The reply was harsh. File your report as failure or face review for psychological contamination. Zoran looked at the smiling humans around him. This is success. He ended the call and turned back to watch the colony grow stronger, as the planet continued its deadly storms. The next days passed with routine and danger intertwined. The silicate worms, giant creatures over 40 meters long, made the ground shake with their movement. Attempts to domesticate them had failed, but their frequency aversion gave the colony a natural warning system. One worm slithered close to the fence, but the humming energy barrier repelled it. We use B-flat resonance to keep them at bay, Santos explained. Sound science meets survival. Zoran began to understand the colony's real secret, adaptation through connection. Humans did not fight the planet, they worked with it. They embraced its chaos and built order inside it. One evening, after the storms died down, Kellerman showed Zoran the greenhouses. Rows of tomatoes and other vegetables grew under protective domes. The volcanic soil, once thought useless, was rich and fertile after acid neutralization. Best tomatoes you'll ever taste, Kellerman said proudly. Radiation gives them extra flavor. Zoran tasted a tomato, its sweet acidity surprising him. This was life made in defiance of death. He realized that humans on Charybdis 9 were rewriting the rules. The galaxy's Death World Index had failed to account for human stubbornness and creativity. Zoran's mission had changed. He was no longer the auditor of failure but the witness of a new chapter, one where humans bend even death to their will. The days on Charybdis 9 grew harder and stranger, yet the humans held firm. Auditor Zoran found himself caught between disbelief and awe. He had come to document failure, but every corner of fire-based persistence whispered a story of triumph against impossible odds. One morning, the colony's power flickered. Zoran hurried to the command center, where Reeves and Santos were already at work. EMP, Reeves said, frustration clear in his voice. The predators aren't just pets, they're a power source too. But sometimes their feeding pulses fry our grids. Santos grinned, not a hint of panic in his eyes. We're building redundancy. Backup arrays in underground vaults. The worm's vibrations help, too. They're like living seismic sensors. Zoran ran his fingers over the cold metal console. Your power efficiency. 340%. It defies thermodynamics. Symbiosis, Santos replied. We tap energy the predators generate. Not magic. Just hard science mixed with stubborn hope. The predators gathered outside, shadows of pure electromagnetic energy shifting like living lightning. They answered to signals sent from the colony, following patterns coded in prime numbers and Fibonacci sequences. Mathematical language that built trust and control. Training them was madness at first, Kellerman admitted. But once we spoke their language, everything changed. Suddenly, the fence's alarms blared. The predators were agitated. Reeves adjusted controls frantically. Volcanic gases venting. Code red possible. Zoran watched the dark clouds swirl violently outside the fence. The ground shook beneath his boots as another quake rippled through the base. The vents pumped sulfur and toxic gases, mixing with acid rain to form a deadly fog. Prepare for evacuation protocols, Kellerman ordered calmly. Everyone to shelters. Zoran followed, heart pounding. Inside the caves, pressure doors sealed them away from the poisonous storm. The air grew thick and sour, but filtered and safe. This is how worlds die, Zoran thought grimly. But through the speakers, Kellerman's voice was steady. No, he said. This is how we live. Hours later, the storm passed. The humans emerged, checking damage, assessing losses. The predators had kept the worst wildlife away. The worms had shuddered underground but caused no collapses this time. Repaired and resilient, fire-based persistence pressed onward. Their greenhouses glowed with soft light, tomatoes ripening despite the chaos outside. Zoran felt the weight of it all. Here, death was not an end, but a challenge. A puzzle the humans refused to surrender to. In quiet moments, Zoran sat with Kellerman and Reeves, sharing stories and hard-earned laughter. The barriers between auditor and colonist blurred. How do you keep hope? Zoran asked one evening. Kellerman smiled, eyes distant. Because we don't have a choice. Because giving up is a slow death. Because this world, this hell, belongs to us now. Reeves raised his glass of Santos potent brew. To impossible odds and stubborn hearts. Zoran lifted his own glass, the bitter liquid burning down. He thought of the galaxy watching, judging, unwilling to believe. But here on Charybdis 9, humans were not just surviving. They were thriving, rewriting what death meant. And the universe was watching, uncertain what to do next. Weeks passed, and the colony grew stronger, carving a stubborn life into the planet's harsh skin. Auditor Zoran had become part of their daily struggle, no longer just an observer but a witness to human will in its purest form. One morning, Zoran was summoned to the command center. The air was thick with tension. Kellerman here, the sergeant said. We've got an unexpected visitor. Zoran's eyes narrowed. Outside the fence, a new electromagnetic form hovered. It was different, larger, more complex. The usual predators regarded it cautiously, pulsing nervously. Contact, Reeves said, fingers flying over controls. Signal structured, but unfamiliar. Not hostile, yet. Santos peered over the console. It's like they brought an envoy. The creature emitted waves of energy. Reeves modulated the colony's response, sending complex math sequences, waiting for a reply. Minutes stretched in silence before the creature's form shifted, sending a pattern that resembled a greeting. It was communicating. Kellerman leaned close. We've made first contact with something new. It's like a leader for the predators. Zoran's heart raced. This was unprecedented. The wild electromagnetic life on Charybdis 9 had a hierarchy, and now it was reaching out. Over the next days, communication improved. The colony sent patterns of prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and constants. The creature responded with modulated pulses that carried emotion Zoran struggled to name, curiosity, respect, even cautious friendship. The predator's behavior changed. They patrolled more closely, guarding the base as if under orders. This is evolution, Santos said quietly. Not just survival, but alliance. Then the ground shook violently. A massive quake, magnitude 9.0, ripped through the planet's crust. Volcanic vents exploded, sending waves of poisonous gas and ash into the sky. The colony's emergency systems roared to life. Kellerman barked orders. Activate all processors. Seal every shelter. Notify the predators. The giant electromagnetic envoy pulsed wildly, then surged forward to the fence, sending a powerful burst of energy that repelled an incoming swarm of hostile creatures attracted by the chaos. Inside the command center, Zoran watched the impossible unfold. The predators were fighting alongside humans, protecting them from nature's fury. Hours later, the storm subsided. Damage was severe but reparable. The humans had survived a disaster that should have wiped them out. In the quiet aftermath, Zoran sat with Kellerman. "How do you do it?" he asked. "Face death so many times and still stand." Kellerman's eyes held fierce pride. "Because this is our home now. The universe says we don't belong here, but we belong wherever we choose. We don't just live on Charybdis 9. We own it." Zoran realized that this was more than stubbornness. It was a declaration, a promise that humans will never surrender to the void. The colony sent a new report to the Galactic Survey. They requested permanent settlement status. They asked for recognition of a new classification, human pliable. A planet so deadly it killed all others, but where humans shaped death into life. The bureaucracy hesitated. The galaxy's rules were clear, death worlds were final. But humans were rewriting those rules. Zoran smiled as he prepared his own report. Classification 17H, human pliable. The weeks that followed brought a strange calm to Charybdis 9. The colony, once a fragile outpost, was now a fortress forged by hardship and determination. Auditor Zoran sat in the conference room, finalizing his report. Every word felt heavy with meaning. This was no ordinary colony, and this was no ordinary planet. The new classification, 17H, human pliable, had shaken the Galactic Survey to its core. Worlds once written off as impossible were now open questions. How could a species so fragile by nature be so unbreakable in will? Zoran reflected on what he had seen, humans turning acid rain into water and minerals, taming beings made of living electricity, laughing in the face of earthquakes and poison gas. Here, death was not an enemy but a challenge to be solved, a puzzle to be cracked. The planet still raged outside. Volcanic tremors and acid storms came like clockwork, but the colony had learned to move with the rhythm. Each disaster was met not with panic, but with plans to use destruction as creation, poison as power. Kellerman appeared, his uniform streaked with soot and grime, but his eyes bright. "You done with the boring paperwork?" Zoran smiled. "I'm done. The galaxy needs to hear this." Kellerman nodded. "We'll keep pushing. Building greenhouses, expanding the perimeter, training predators. We're not done yet." Reeves popped his head in, holding a steaming cup. "And coffee. Real coffee. They finally put it on the supply list." Zoran accepted the cup, inhaling the bitter aroma. A small victory in a world of chaos. Outside, the predators patrolled, their glowing forms shifting with purpose. The silicate worms trembled underground, held at bay by sound and science. The volcanoes grumbled, but the humans stood firm. Zoran looked out the window, watching acid rain sparkle like diamonds in the faint sunlight. The planet wanted them dead. The universe expected them to fail. But humans were different. They didn't just survive. They insisted on living. And the galaxy had no choice but to recognize it. The shuttle awaited him for departure, but Zoran hesitated. Charybdis 9 had changed him. It had shown him a truth too stubborn to ignore. He turned away, choosing to stay a while longer. To learn, to witness, to be part of something impossible made real. The universe was vast and merciless, but humans were a force of nature all their own. And Charybdis 9 was proof. In the end, the galaxy had to invent a new Death World class, just for humans.